Last time, we covered some of the strangest items in Dark Souls, but believe it or not, we barely scratched the surface. There are still plenty of bizarre relics and odd little curiosities we never got around to talking about. So, let's pick up where we left off, starting with the humble prism stone. If you're about to yeet yourself into the dark pits of Lordran, you absolutely need a prism stone to check whether the fall is lethal or not. Not gonna lie, from the outside they just look like glowing balls, but they are far more useful than that. Firstly, is it just me or does anyone else just enjoy casually throwing these stones on the floor? And let's not forget the sound it makes. It's so satisfying. You get that nice, pleasant sound when it lands safe, and you just want to keep tossing them around. On paper, it is just a consumable used as a breadcrumb trail so you don't get lost in miserable spots, like the Tomb of the Giants or the Crystal Cave. You can buy them from patches for 10 souls, which is basically free. If you are standing on a ledge and don't know if the fall will flat out kill you, you can then drop a prism stone over the edge to check whether the fall is lethal or not. If it is loud, the fall will be fatal. Also, the item description straight up lies to you. Warm pebble emitting a beautiful phasing aura of 7 colors with a very rare 8th. Which is not true. The community spent hours testing this, and all 8 colors spawn at the exact same rate. Back in the day, before the devs patched the game, you could take these 10 soul pebbles over to King Seeker Framt. This snake dude would actually eat them and spit out 100 souls for each one. You could literally buy them from patches for 10, feed them to Framt for 100, and just print stacks of money. Sadly, From Software realized we were completely breaking the economy and nerfed it into the ground. Also, just like any other weird item in the game, if you take a prism stone back to the Northern Undead Asylum and drop it in Snuggly the Crow's nest, she will happily trade you a Demon Titanite for it. You can only pull off this trade once per playthrough. Let us directly look at the item description of Divine Blessing. The text states that it is holy water from the goddess Gwynevere. You really have to stop and ask yourself, what kind of water is this actually supposed to be, and how was it sourced from Gwynevere, if you know what I mean? If you actually look at the lore, the existence of this item gets even more suspicious. By the time you reach Anor Londo, the real goddess, Gwynevere, has already abandoned the city. The giant woman resting on the couch is just a magical illusion created by her younger brother, Gwyndolin. So, if Gwynevere is not even there, what exactly is bottling this holy water and putting it in chests across Lordran? It is highly likely that Gwyndolin is bottling up his own bathwater and stamping his sister's brand on it just to keep the undead motivated. We also run into another classic developer inconsistency here. When you are on the character creation screen, this item is explicitly labeled as the Goddess's Blessing in the starting gift menu. This perfectly matches the lore description. However, once you actually load into Lordran and open your inventory, the name magically changes to Divine Blessing. A lot of players flame this item and call it redundant, which I kind of get on the surface. Why do you need this when you can just drink from your Estus flask or pop a humanity for the heal? Plus, you already have moss clumps to cure your poison and toxicity. But honestly, sleeping on this item is a massive loss. A Divine Blessing is the ultimate panic button. The animation is slightly fast compared to chugging Estus, which is an absolute lifesaver when a boss is aggressively breathing down your neck. It instantly restores your entire health bar and wipes out bleed, poison, and toxic buildup all at once. Just keep in mind that it will not save you from a curse. You still need a purging stone for that. Because these items are so powerful, they are heavily restricted. You can find a few hidden in chests across Sen's Fortress and Anor Londo, or hidden behind the roots in the lava pits of Lost Izalith. You can also buy exactly one from Rhea of Thorland and one from patches. If you are desperate, You can even trade the Ring of the Sun Princess to Snuggly the Crow to get 2 of them. I think the Divine Blessing truly peaks in Dark Souls 3. The third game completely stripped away farmable secondary heals. You don't get the infinite life gems from Dark Souls 2, and you can't just crunch 10 humanities back to back like in Dark Souls 1. When you are sweating through a grueling endurance fight like the 3 phases of Sister Freed, having that one emergency full heal sitting in your quick bar is absolutely clutch. Picture this. You just finished the DLC. You barely survived Manus, Father of the Abyss, and you then crawl all the way back to the Ulasil Sanctuary bonfire. And Elizabeth, the giant mushroom lady, thanks you for saving Princess Dusk by handing you a few things. Now, I know most wild mushrooms are poisonous, but the real question is, what exactly are we eating here? Are these mushrooms her children? Are they literally pieces of her body? Are we just casually munching on Elizabeth's toes? The game is kind of saying, thank you for saving my friend. Here's a chunk of my flesh to snack on. But honestly, this is Dark Souls. A giant mushroom feeding you her own body parts is just another Tuesday in Lordran. Jokes aside, you absolutely want to eat her toes, because mechanically, this item is completely busted. When you consume Elizabeth's mushroom, you do not just get a flat heal. It triggers a massive health regeneration effect that heals you for roughly 100 HP per second, and it lasts for a full 30 seconds. You can just face tank some of the hardest bosses in the game while your health bar violently forces itself back to maximum. There is one catch though. The game codes this mushroom as a self-buff. This means if you eat it, it will cancel out all the other body buffs. You cannot stack this with the Power Within, the Great Magic Barrier, or the Transient Curse. You can also find one on the corpse in the Royal Wood, or if you are an absolute monster, you can just straight up murder Elizabeth and she will drop 3 of them. The Skull Lantern is a spooky looking item. It is a literal glowing skull that the player character holds by its hair. According to the game, this belonged to the Catacombs Necromancer. But the item description has an error. The text says the lantern droops from his beard locks. But in the game, we can see that we hold the lantern from its hair. Mechanically, this is an item specifically created to help you see in pitch black nightmare zones like the Tomb of the Giants. But here is the punchline. It gives off absolutely 0 light just by having it equipped. To actually see anything, you have to hold it up to your face like you are blocking with a shield. This means you have to completely throw away your actual shield just to see 2 feet in front of you. If you panic and try to poke an enemy with a spear, your character lowers the lantern, plunging you back into total darkness. If you actually try to block a heavy attack with this, you are going to take massive damage. People also try to outsmart the game by equipping the Sunlight Maggot helmet and the Skull Lantern at the same time to create a massive mega light source. But the game does not let this mechanic work. Despite being incredibly frustrating, it does have a few redeeming qualities. When you hold it up in the Tomb of the Giants, it magically reveals these glowing blue path markers on the walls that lead you safely to Nito's boss room. Plus, if you are completely sick of using it, you can take it back to the Undead Asylum and trade it to Snuggly the Crow for a Ring of Fog. Getting your hands on one can also be a completely miserable experience. The easiest way is to just let Patches kick you down his infamous pit in the Tomb of the Giants, where you can find one resting on a corpse. Otherwise, you have to farm the necromancers in the catacombs for a terrible 2% drop rate. The game is supposed to be nice and guarantee a drop from the very last necromancer you kill, but since this is Dark Souls, this can glitch and you might not get that drop at all. Ah, the Dark Sign. Hidetaka Miyazaki's personal take on the brand of sacrifice from Berserk. It's the literal very first item that you are granted at the beginning of the game, sitting right there in your inventory the moment you wake up in the Undead Asylum. Despite having some of the most beautiful and tragic lore in the entire franchise, pretty much everyone forgets it even exists because the mechanics are entirely counterintuitive. The lore behind this burning ring is actually insane. Basically, Lord Gwyn looked into the future, saw the Age of Dark coming, and absolutely panicked over the infinite potential of the Dark Soul. So, he forced a literal ring of fire around the Dark Soul to contain its power, which weakened humans and slapped them with the dark sign. Fast forward centuries later, the first flame starts fading, and the dark sign starts eating away at everyone's remaining humanity, cursing them to eventually lose their minds and go hollow. Gwyn then turned himself into a martyr and used the undead prophecy as massive propaganda, tricking branded humans into coming to Lordran just to gather souls and burn themselves alive to keep the age going. But then you look at how the item actually works in-game, and it is just beyond stupid. The entire gameplay loop of the Dark Souls revolves around hoarding your souls and humanity. But if you manually use the dark sign, it teleports you back to the last bonfire you rested at while permanently deleting every single soul and soft humanity that you are currently holding. The kicker is that it does not even leave a bloodstain behind for you to pick up later. Why on earth would you ever use this? If you just let a skeleton stab you, or if you jump off a cliff, you at least get a bloodstain and a chance to win your hard-earned cash back. Plus, you can just use a homeward bone or a homeward miracle to teleport back to safety without losing a single thing. However, there is a tiny 1% chance that when using this item, it is actually a highly big brain play. Let's say you died and dropped 100,000 souls on the ground. On the walk of shame back to get them, you get invaded or trapped in a horrible spot. If you die manually, you leave a new worthless bloodstain, and your massive 100,000 soul bloodstain is permanently deleted. But if you manually pop the dark sign, it destroys what you are currently holding, but actually preserves your previous bloodstain on the map. Also, manually using it does not strip away your human form like a normal death does, which is a nice little bonus if you are completely broke anyway. Or, you can just use it when the game's flawless physics engine glitches you inside a wall and you have no homeward bones left in your pockets. And let's be entirely real. Whenever you crunch down on a garden blossom in the middle of a fight, it feels exactly like your character is hitting some incredibly high quality weed. Well, to add on to that, the official in-game item description literally calls it exactly what it is. Green weed shaped like a flower. Your primary dealer for this stuff is the crestfallen merchant, who is just, chilling at the very top of Sen's fortress. Think about it. This guy crawled through an entire gauntlet of giant swinging axes, rolling boulders, and snake men, just to set up a weed farm at the top of Sen's fortress. Also, his stash is unlimited, and he sells it for $1,000 per pop. If you're running through the DLC, you have another dealer who is the marvelous Chester. The community loves to theorize that Chester is a time traveler from Yharnam, the city from Bloodborne. The reason why is because of his dapper top hat and long coat. If that theory holds true, it means that this man got pulled through a black portal, landed in a completely different timeline, and the very first thing he did was make sure he didn't leave his stash behind. Also, the price here is 1,200 souls per pop. What, did the inflation catch up in Ulusil? Or was the demand too high? You either pay the premium or you go back to farming those weird frog rays in the woods. But once you cough up the cash, this premium lettuce gives you the best trip of your life. When you crunch down on a green blossom, it boosts your stamina recovery speed by 40 points per second for a full 60 seconds. The best part? It stacks perfectly with the Chloranthy ring, the Great Crest Shield, and the Mask of the Child. If you build your character right, Your stamina regenerates so fast that it immediately gets your full green bar back before the boss can even finish swinging. Just keep in mind, the game does code this herb as a self-buff, meaning it completely blocks out the other personal power-ups. You can't combine this with the massive damage multiplier of the power within, or protect yourself with the great magic barrier. On the surface, this item appears to be a basic consumable used to manage status effects, specifically to reduce curse buildup and break an active curse. However, the lore behind it is exceptionally dark. The item description explicitly states that it is an ash-colored stone encasing a skull. It is known as the secret treasure of Asta, the Earl of Karim. When a player is cursed, most commonly by the basilisks located in the depths or the Great Hollow, the immediate result is instantaneous death. However, the punishment extends far beyond a standard respawn. The player awakens at the nearest bonfire with their maximum health permanently reduced by half. While in this cursed state, the player cannot consume humanity to reverse their hollowing, nor can they kindle bonfires to increase their Estus flask count. This extreme mechanical penalty halts all forward progress. The player is forced to backtrack through hostile environments with a severe handicap simply to acquire a purging stone. The mechanics of this item are quite disturbing when you read the fine print. According to the game, humans are completely helpless against curses and can only redirect their influence. When you use a purging stone, it receives the curse as a surrogate. The most unsettling detail provided by the game is that the stone itself was once a person or some other being. You are essentially sacrificing a trapped soul to save your own life. If you are cursed, you will desperately need one of these to fix your character. You can purchase them from Oswald of Karim for 3,000 souls, though his supply is limited to exactly 5 stones. If you run out of this stock, you might have to visit the undead female merchant. She completely takes advantage of your desperation and charges a massive 6,000 souls for the exact same item. If you want to avoid being extorted by the merchant, you must farm the item yourself. You can find them as a drop from giant clams, which are also referred to as man-eater shells, located in Ash Lake or the Crystal Cave. You will have to be patient as they only have a 10% drop chance from these enemies. Alternatively, if you have a cracked red eye orb, you can trade it to Snuggly the Crow to receive 2 purging stones per playthrough. There are 2 final mechanical details to remember. First, while it cures a standard curse, it will not remove the transient curse effect. Second, if you somehow end up with too many of these in your inventory, you can always feed them to Kingseeker Frount, who will consume them for 1,000 souls each. The visual design of the Firekeeper soul is definitely confusing when you first look at the inventory icon. It does look somewhat like a mass of coarse animal fur or a tangled knot of hair. However, the item description clarifies exactly what you are looking at, and it is far more disturbing than wolf fur. The description states, "A Firekeeper's soul is a draw for humanity and held within their bosoms. Below just a thin layer of skin are swarms of humanity that writhe and squirm." What you are actually seeing in the icon is a visual representation of those swarms of humanity. The lore implies that a Firekeeper acts as a living vessel, absorbing the humanity offered to the bonfires. This process causes their physical bodies to become completely bloated and deformed by the infinite amount of humanity gnawing at their souls. This item is also notorious for causing massive problems for new players due to its mechanics. The description explicitly states, "It can be used to gain humanity and restore HP at the cost of losing the Firekeeper's soul to reinforce the Estus flasks." Because it is listed as a consumable item, many first-time players simply press the Use button directly from their inventory. If you do this, your character crushes the soul, gaining 5 soft humanities and a full health restoration. However, doing so permanently destroys the soul, meaning you just lost the ability to permanently upgrade the healing power of your Estus flask. To properly use the item, you must physically carry it to one of the 3 living Firekeepers in the game: Anastasia below Firelink Shrine, Quaylag's sister, or the Dark Moon Knightess. Then, select the Reinforce Estus Flask option in the dialog menu. Acquiring these souls is also a little strange. While a few can be found hidden as treasures in locations like Blighttown or the Undead Parish, others require you to murder the very characters who assist you. If you choose to kill the Dark Moon Knightess or Quaylag's sister for their souls, their respective bonfires are permanently extinguished for the rest of the playthrough. Furthermore, the game mathematically prevents you from fully upgrading your flask in a single run. A flask can be upgraded a maximum of 7 times. While there are exactly 7 Firekeeper souls available in a single playthrough, obtaining all 7 requires killing every living Firekeeper. If every Firekeeper is dead, there is no one left to perform the upgrade procedure for you. Finally, the game is also highly unforgiving regarding Anastasia's specific soul. If Knight Lautrec murders her, you must invade his world in Anolondo to reclaim her soul. If you accidentally consume her specific soul or use it to upgrade your flask at another Firekeeper, Anastasia will remain dead permanently, and the Firelink Shrine bonfire will be extinguished for the remainder of your playthrough. You must return her exact soul to her cell to revive her. Humanity is something people would have not expected to be on the list, but they are a little weird. Visually, they look like black sprites, but is it just me or do they kind of remind me of something else as well? If you know, you know. What makes this item so frustrating is how obscure the mechanics are. I hate that you cannot properly learn how this works without keeping a wiki open on your second monitor. The game tells you absolutely nothing about the hidden stat boosts. Through normal gameplay, the only things you ever figure out are that you can use it to reverse your hollowing at a bonfire. You can either do that or kindle that bonfire for more Estus, or use it to enable PvP invasions and co-op summoning. But beneath the surface, holding soft humanity in the top left corner of your screen drastically alters your character's stats. First, it heavily boosts your item discovery rate. If you're holding 0 humanity, your base discovery is 100 points. If you hold 10 humanity, it maxes out at 210 points, making it significantly easier to farm rare drops from enemies. Second, it massively increases your curse resistance. This scales all the way up to 30 soft humanity. If you are running through the depths of the Great Hollow and are terrified of the basilisks, holding humanity is the best way to survive. Finally, holding humanity actually increases your overall physical and elemental defense, which are magic, fire, and lightning, functioning almost exactly like leveling up your standard stats, essentially capping at 99 humanity. It also directly scales the damage of chaos-infused weapons and chaos pyromancies, maxing out at 10 humanity. The game explains literally none of this to you. You are just supposed to somehow figure out that having a large number in the corner of your screen makes your Chaos Zweihander hit harder and prevents you from turning into a cursed statue. We also have to talk about how you actually get this stuff. The absolute best place to farm solid humanity early on is by killing the rats in the depths. Why do random sewer rats drop fragments of the Dark Souls? Well, that is because they spend all day eating the rotting corpses of undead humans who fell down there. Later in the game, it gets even weirder. You can farm infinitely respawning skeleton babies in the Tomb of the Giant, or you can go to the DLC and fight a literal giant floating humanity phantom in the Chasm of the Abyss. Let us examine the Dragon Head Stone and the Dragon Torso Stone. These items allow the player to physically transform their character into a humanoid dragon. The transformation is permanent until the player dies, and the ritual cannot be reversed by any other means. To begin this process, you must travel to Ash Lake, and locate the Everlasting Dragon to join the path of the Dragon Covenant. Simply joining the Covenant rewards you with the Dragon Head Stone. If you remove your headgear and use the stone, your character's head permanently transforms into that of a dragon. Pressing the Item Use button allows you to emit a stream of fire breath, which drains your stamina by 50 points per second. While the fire breath is an interesting mechanic, the Dragon Head Stone is most famous for a severe programming error prior to patch 1.06. Players discovered a bug that allowed them to manipulate the fire-breathing animation. By turning toward the camera at a specific moment and switch the equipped item, players could exploit the game to endlessly consume items. This glitch was heavily abused by the community to generate infinite souls and humanity. If you wish to complete the transformation, you must offer 30 dragon skills to the Everlasting Dragon to reach rank +2 in the Covenant. This achievement grants you the Dragon Torso Stone. To activate it, you must remove all of your equipped armor. Using the stone transforms your entire body into an ancient dragon figure. The mechanical benefits of this transformation are highly specific. The Dragon Torso Stone provides absolutely no defensive improvements. However, using the stone while transformed causes your character to roar. This action consumes 100 stamina, emits a shockwave that inflicts knockback and deflects projectiles, and provides a temporary 25% increase to your attack rating. Furthermore, your unarmed attack damage is multiplied by a factor of 20, and your standard combat animations are replaced with claw swipes and headbutts. While these are just a handful of the completely unhinged items we have gone through today, what if I told you there is an entire mountain of even weirder stuff hiding in Lordran? If you want to dive deeper into the absolute oddities of the game, we actually explored a ton of them in our previous video. Go check that out and I will see you there.